And today's speaker is Irina. She's originally from Sofia, from Bulgaria, but has been here in Berlin, I think, for 14 years now, if I'm not mistaken. And she's a freelancer herself and came up with some methods on how you can actually advance when sometimes you might feel stuck. So it's a pleasure having you with us. Please welcome her on stage.
Hi, everyone. Hope you had your coffee. This is going to be a bit on the heavy side. I want to show you a framework. That framework will help you evolve your freelance business. Yeah, let's jump into it. So first I have a question, actually. How many of you were in permanent employment before you became freelancers? Okay, that's pretty much everyone, which is actually what I expected to see because it was similar for me. So I spent 18 years in corporate before I became a freelancer. And the good thing is you get to learn how to do the job, of course, but you also learn what it is you don't like about corporate, which is probably why we all stepped into freelancing. So those are things like being told what to do and how to do it and with whom and so on and so forth. And the list is really long. And my list in particular is very long. When I moved to freelancing, I was really super happy. I was thinking now I'm gonna get to work with all of these amazing clients on these great projects and I'm going to change the world. And I'm going to be super happy about it because, of course, I'm going to do things my way. And, of course, I know best. So when I started freelancing, it didn't exactly go like that. And I was wondering why at some point. I was thinking, I mean, on paper, freelancing is like heaven. But in reality, it sounds so much like permanent employment for me. And so, since I'm actually an operations specialist, and I was thinking, maybe there's something for me here to look into, like, why is that happening? And the first thing I noticed is, let's see which button now. Okay. Yay. So the first thing I noticed is this. I was hired because I had the experience of 18 years of doing the job and I was really good at it and very skilled and blah, 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 and I'm just awesome. But then I'm told just, how about you hammer that nail for the whole day, every day, and don't ask too many questions. And so I said, that doesn't even make sense. I mean, for this brain dead activity, you can literally hire anybody, like take a junior or an intern, and then they're gonna be N times cheaper. But then again, if the companies have the money, they just get the best. So then I'm thinking, all right, something is probably not going right with the hiring process. So I looked into the hiring process, and it goes like this for the companies. They have a problem, then they figure out the solution to the problem. Then I have to look around inside the company and see, okay, do we have someone to implement that solution inside our company? And if they don't, they decide they have to hire someone, and for that they have to create a job advertisement, but the job advertisement is based on the job description. The job description has two parts in it. The first part is how you do the tasks that you need to do, and those are not, this is not the solution, it's not the problem, it's just telling you exactly the detailed tasks. And the second one is what you need to know to do these tasks. And the second part is actually the criteria based on which they will select you when you apply for the job. So then they post this, people start applying, and then there are job interviews. And here is the interesting part, because companies don't have a different process for internals and externals. So when they hire, they follow one process. And when we don't have our own process, we follow theirs. Which means, at this stage, it's not a B2B discussion. It's like not a partnership call or a sales call. It's job interviews. And once they decide to hire you, they give you the job description, which has exactly these detailed tasks from the solution. But you don't get to see the solution, and you don't know even what problem you're solving. So on a high level, that looks like this. There's a problem, there's a solution, and there are these low-level implementation tasks. And when I started freelancing, was hired at the bottom. But when I was in corporate, I also start in the bottom because I'm a junior and I don't know much about it. And with the years, I get to learn the job and I go higher and higher up this chain. Like at some point, you start being able to solve the problems yourself, and at some point you're already that good in what you do that you see what kind of problems there are even when others don't see them. So after 18 years, I was at the top, and when I leave corporate, I'm hired as a freelancer at the bottom. So at that moment, I was saying, okay, I identified the problem. So I'm at the bottom, but I should be at the top, or at least I should be at the middle where I am solving the problem. And Ryan, I don't know if you just heard his talk, he was saying, those are the detailed-oriented tasks are the do part, the commodity roles, which are not good, they are not solution-oriented, they're task-oriented. But the ones which are outcome-oriented are the ones at the top, the strategic ones. So the question then becomes, okay, when I'm in corporate, I will go up the corporate career path, the ladder, and I will go up this chain. But if I'm in freelance, then what is my career path? So what is, in general, the career path of someone who is out of corporate, like out of the matrix? So I said, okay, I should figure that one out. What is my path? And when I started researching, I found this model by Robert Kiyosaki, who is a bit controversial, I know, but his model actually works for what I was trying to achieve, of course. So he called it ESBI, also called a cash flow quadrant. And there are 4 steps for ESBI: employee, self-employed, business owner, investor. And it's actually a straight line, but the reason why he put it like this is just to make the point that on the left-hand side, where you have employee and self-employed, you're actually selling your time for money. And it doesn't matter if you are a permanent employee or if you are self-employed, you still sell your time for money. But on the right-hand side, you have either a system that makes money for you as a business owner, or as an investor, you will put in your money, invest your money, and they will make money for you. You can also, of course, invest other people's money. So that's all great, but then my question was, how do I move from one step to the next? Because it's not detailed enough for me, so I needed more information. And since I'm an operations specialist, I know that to scale a task or to grow a business, you need leverage. So let me first explain a bit what leverage is. If you just take an input, you do something with it, and that you get the output, this is a process. It's straightforward. But when you put leverage into the picture, think of it like it's impact. Then you get an outcome, which is actually the value you receive from that input. And I give you an example. Let's say 2 people are reading a book for 5 hours. And so the output you will get after that, in 5 hours, they both will have read that book that they're reading. But let's say one of the books, if we talk now about leverage, the horizontal line, one of the books was super boring. So the person just, they read it, but it's like 5 hours lost. That's nothing at the end. You don't get an outcome. But the other person let's say it was super interesting book, and they're full of ideas, and they go off from there, and they maybe create a business, design a product, paint a picture, write a book themselves, whatever. Then you have a lot bigger outcome. So that's the difference when you start looking into leverage. So now the question is, how we take leverage and we apply it to the framework of Kiyosaki so that we have something more detailed and more actionable for ourselves as freelancers. And I came up with 8 steps. They are 2 of my framework, map 1 of Kiyosaki's. I will show you the whole thing at the end because first I'll walk you through each step. So the first one is, same as in his framework, employee, you sell your time for money, but what you get is specific knowledge. And the knowledge is specific because we all have different interests and skills and abilities and so on. And even though the knowledge is the same, like I give this one presentation, but in a week's time, each of you will remember something different from it. So our way to grow as an employee is get that knowledge, and then we start selling it as a freelancer. So we step out of corporate, we become external employees / contractors, and we still sell our time for money, but then here we can set our own price. And we can set our own price up to a certain point because we are now on the free market, and then we will scale that, but it has a limit. Like you cannot grow your price more than a certain point because then nobody will hire you. So when you reach the point where you've grown to the max, your prices, you have to scale in another way. And that other way is the third step where you still sell your time for money, but now you want to do the maximum in this time. So then you start putting some processes and systems in place so that you can maximize whatever that you're doing. And those will be, like I can give you some examples. You can use templates, for example, for project management. You can use systems. You start using systems for, let's say, task tracking. And then you give visibility to your client to see what's the status of the tasks. You can also automate some things, like the client receives your proposal, and the moment they sign it, they immediately receive the full contract with terms and conditions. So you don't have to like sit and wait for the email and then manually send the next email, and so on and so forth. So those are the parts here. So once you do really the most you can do with the time you are selling, then you have to figure out another way to scale. And that other way, the fourth step, is when you realize you have to decouple yourselves from time, because time doesn't scale. I mean, we all have just 24 hours per day, that's it. So the way to decouple yourself from time is to productize your services. So that term requires a little bit of explanation. We all sell services, and the services are usually linked to time. But products are standalone items, so they are linked to numbers. Numbers don't have a limit. They are not 24 per day. They can be an infinite amount. So the way to productize services is like anything that you do once and you can sell multiple times is already a productized service. For example, if you create a training, some kind of course, you put it out online, and then maybe it took you like a week to create, but there are limitless clients you can get with that. Another way I've seen is there was a UX designer, and she put on her website something like a teaser before you actually hire her, how to like check if you want to work with her. And so what she decided to do is, she says, give me your website, and I will take 3 days to review it, and after 3 days I will send you a report. This report will contain 3 parts. The first one is what doesn't work on your website, the second is what works on your website, and the third one is, okay, for the parts that don't work, how do you fix those? So imagine she has factored in, of course, how long it takes her to create this report. And let's say it's 1 hour. So her limit is, theoretically, there is no limit. Like, n number of clients can buy this. But actually, she does have a limit. And that is, if everybody comes at the same time to purchase that service, then her limit would be, she has 3 days to design it, 1 hour, and let's say 1 hour it takes her, and let's say she works only 8 hours per day, 3 times 8 divided by 1, 24. So her limit is the throughput, how many she can serve at any given time. And that's 24. So in 1 year, if she works all 365 days, she can serve, again, her throughput for 1 year is 2,920 people. So that's not like 1 and 2. So now here are 2 questions. First is, how do you even get to that number? How do you get to the number of thousands of clients being fully booked to the maximum of your capacity and even having clients on your waiting list? And the second question is, once you get there, what happens after? So question number 1, how do you get to be fully booked? Well, that's the next step of growing your business, and that's when you realize the product of your business is you. You have to sell yourself. That's how you get fully booked. And the reason is that for clients to come and buy from any freelancer, they have to know 3 things. First, that we actually exist. Second, what it is we do. And third, that we're the best at what we do. And the way we achieve that is by marketing ourselves and positioning ourselves as experts. And that happens nowadays, that everybody's online with a lot of content creation. It's part of marketing when it's inbound, not outbound. You're not chasing clients, but actually putting content out there so that they see that you know what you're talking about and they come to you. So let's say you do this successfully. You have a lot of blogs, podcasts. You can write books. You can do videos. You can do conference talks. Now you know where I'm, in which steps. And you do this successfully. You're fully booked. So what happens later? Well, first of all, this is not very well seen, I think, but that is the end of freelancing, because at that point, so you're a solopreneur here, but the next step is you have to scale yourself. And you do that by hiring other people. And of course, until now, you've hired some freelancers as well, maybe for design of the website, for a logo, for some tax advisory services, legal, and so on. But now you need permanent help. And so you have to start hiring employees. And the good thing with hiring employees is, like, you create a company, and then you can delegate to these employees the things that you either don't know how to do very well, don't want to do, or don't have time to do. And so you focus only on the ones that you're really good at and they bring the most value to your company. I can give you an example here. There is a YouTuber, Ali Abdal. He grew his YouTube channel. And at first he started with some simple videos. He didn't even know what videos to post. Then little by little his audience guided him, and then he at the end ended up with personal productivity. Then he wrote a book. He's super famous now. He's making like more than $1 million per year, and he's hiring employees to help him with the videos and the social marketing and so on. So the next step would be then, once you're so famous, you have the brand already, you're just literally cashing in that brand. So at that point, you already have the system that works for you. So you don't have to do the job yourself. You can start stepping out of it and just be a shareholder and just keep like the visibility ongoing, because that's what brings customers to you, to your company. And I can give you some examples there. I mean, everybody who is constantly see on TV has some separate business as well, like Oprah Winfrey, a lot of Hollywood actors, like Reese Witherspoon has a very interesting business on the side that we can talk about later. Matthew McConaughey, for example, he issued his autobiography, and since he's an actor, he also did the audiobook and so on. So that's how you do it here. Last step, when you've already gathered so much capital and wealth, you start investing this money. And here, of course, I can give examples. Warren Buffett, when he's investing in stock exchanges, but also Cody Sanchez, and she's buying other businesses. So that's a type of investment as well. So now, here is the whole framework that I came up with. I called it the Freedom's Path, since it's the path to financial freedom. And I want to mention several things. So first, for the titles, as you see, 4 of them are actually freelancer. I don't know if it's well seen, but the employee contract, external employee, contractor, independent professional, self-employed, solopreneur, and one-person business. These are all terms that we use to say freelancer. And honestly, for me, it doesn't matter so much who calls themselves how, just like Matt was saying yesterday. There are too many terms in this space. But what I wanted to point out is that there is somewhat of an evolution. I mean, a person who starts freelancing today is not the same as a person who has done freelancing for 10 years already. They have figured out a lot of the steps of this evolution already. So that was my first point. I actually wanted to know what the steps are. The second is, can you be in several boxes at the same time? Yes, I mean, you can be one-person business owner and already invest your money because you've had enough, and then you can start investing. Can you skip places? Yes. You can be an employee, or even before becoming an employee, you can decide, oh, I want to be a founder, I want to have my own company, and then you skip the whole freelancing. But within freelancing, I don't think you can skip, because it's more of an evolution. So it's like, if you're 5 years old, you don't become 26 overnight. You become 6 and then 7 and so on. And last thing I want to leave you with is 2 ways to use this. One is, usually I talk to a lot of freelancers and they tell me, oh, but I'm doing podcasts and I'm doing this and that and videos and YouTube and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, you're already on the last step where you're building your visibility. But then they tell me, but at the same time, I'm not attracting the right client, and I'm not even sure who my client is. And I'm thinking, okay, but that's like step 0. Like, you have to know, like, what is the problem you're solving and for whom. So it means they've skipped some steps. And then I tell them, okay, but then go back a bit, do this, do that, and then you'll reach to the point where you build your brand. And the second thing where I started is for myself. So I wanted to figure out, when I created it, I was in the first box. I was external employee. And I wanted to understand, how is it that some people are so famous and making such great money, and there is a way to go there, obviously, but what is that? And once I came up with this framework, and I said, aha, now I know, and I think I want, for the time being, I'm fine being in that last step of freelancing. I don't want my own company and so on. So, but then I already know what kind of steps I have to do to get there. And more importantly, in what order. Because when I started researching and saw how many things I have to do, I literally drowned at some point. It was overwhelming. But then I said, I don't have to do it all at the same time. Like, now I'm here, I focus on this first step. Once I've done that, I scale, but not before, because otherwise it's just wasting resources. And I think that's about all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Irina. I think one of the biggest takeaways is definitely that you are the product you're selling, right? So I think always important to keep that in mind. Thank you so much for that reminder. We do have some questions already. For anyone that joined us a bit afterwards, there are the yellow posters, the second QR, you can submit your questions, so I'll get them straight here on my phone and I'll be able to ask Irina. One of the first questions is, if you were to start today, what would you do differently?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. If I'm to start today and I have this already available, I would focus on step 1, which is first get some clients. Yes, you're selling your time for money, but you first want to focus on that, get some clients. Only then start looking into, okay, putting some processes and systems in place. Only then start like creating a brand and so on and so forth. Because originally I literally jumped into everything at once, like straight into the ocean, and then figured out if I can swim. And that was very overwhelming, and it took me quite some time. Actually, the last 1 year I've been busy with figuring out my business and figuring out myself in my business. So that maybe could have been avoided or could have been shorter.
Thank you. Another question is, which I find very interesting as well, isn't the content creation a big distraction, and isn't it better to improve your craft/main expertise? Because you said you need to market yourself, right? So how would you tackle that?
Yeah, of course. So having a good network is very important. And if you can get clients only by using your network, by all means do that. If you don't need to scale more than that, then don't do it. Don't go to content creation. If you don't need to attract more clients. But if you do need to attract more clients, then that's a very good way to go. Because it's really, you put yourself out there as an authority, and a lot more people will see you from all over the world. Maybe you want different markets, maybe you want different industries. That's a good way how to do it. But yes, if you don't need more clients, then don't go for it.
Then what role does community play in this evolution?
Yeah, so networking goes in 2 ways. I think yesterday, the marketing session we had here, it was on that topic. You can attend events which are either where you get more clients or where you meet your peers and you learn more about how to do your craft. So this one is from the second type, and it's just as important as getting clients because it creates more of a sense of a teamwork, like you're not alone. Otherwise, our jobs are really quite lonely, at least the way I see it. Every day just sit at home, or even if you're traveling, you're still alone with your PC, and that's it. When you work with your clients, they are not exactly your team. And in a way that's good because we stepped out of corporate so that we are independent, but this independence has a cost. So having a really strong support network actually is great for mental health, and mental health is like important for everything.
And now focusing maybe on the first step on the freedoms path. You said you should hire some people yourself, that you've been an employee, like a freelancer, sorry, before. Do you have any tips on how to make sure that you find the right people that can support you there?
I don't actually have tips. I just searched, like I asked around. I, for example, had hired a tax advisor even before I started, because I'm a Virgo, I want everything to be perfect before I even start. So I hired the person. I had too many questions. I wasn't sure how to jump into freelancing, so he helped explain all of that and kind of eased the process. But once I started freelancing and saw how much he's charging me for doing very little, I said, okay, but I can do this on my own. Like every month, just sending a VAT report, that's like one click which I'm doing right now via an app. So hire the people, like how you find them, it's not so relevant. I mean, ask around, Google, anything that works. But hire the people that will help you with different things that you're struggling with at the moment. And then once you see that, okay, you don't need these people anymore, then just don't use them. You're not married to them or anything. Yeah.
And one last question, maybe a tip on how to position yourself as a problem solver in the market.
Yeah. So yesterday we talked with John. Usually it goes like this. I mean, you have to niche down. I didn't like the idea myself because I'm a generalist in what I do. But when we are all generalists, then why would clients hire you? I mean, they don't identify with the problem you're solving. You have to, like, it's a marketing trick. You have to make your client identify with what you do, like the problem you solve. They should look at like your website or LinkedIn description and say, oh yes, that's exactly the problem I have at the moment, and I see they work with exactly the people that like I am. So I will hire that person. And to niche down, you can look at these three things, three areas that overlap. One is what it is that you're really good at. I mean, that would be something that you can talk about for 1 hour straight without preparation. Then second is what it is that you actually like doing. That would be something that you can do for hours and you forget about time. You're just in the flow. And the third one is where is the demand. That would be something that your friends and relatives come to you for. When you put these three things together, where they overlap, that's your niche. And then you have to define it as clearly as possible, like I'm doing this for these people, and that's the result. And that's how you position yourself. Then from there on, you just chase clients.
Fantastic. Irina, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you found it as inspirational as I did and have a lot of takeaways. And yeah, thank you so much. And we will be back here in 7 minutes.